Gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this, the 22nd. Monday the 22nd. Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Wow, time is really moving along fast. Thank you guys for listening to the show, and I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, here's the thing, guys. If we look back a few months ago, General Mike Minihan said that the Taiwan and U.S. elections in 2024 would offer Xi Jinping a distracted America and time to go to war with China by no later than 2025. He warned in a letter to the Pentagon, says senior U.S. general has warned that America could be at war with China within the next 2 years. It says the Pentagon has played down his remarks. In a memo dated February 1st, but obtained by U.S. media outlets ahead of its release, Air Force General Mike Minihan, who heads the Air Force Air Mobility Command, wrote, "I'm hoping I'm wrong, but my gut tells me we will fight in 2025. Or sooner." But what I'm here to tell you guys is generally when they write these inner memos between military commanders and stuff, and they produce a warning like this, generally there's a lot more behind the military's memos and stuff than what you guys realize. So this was an eye-opener for me when it came out. And I was here, I did the show on this on my channel back when it was first released. The memo dated February 1st. And it was big news to me. And the reason why it's big news to me is it shows what's coming. That Taiwan is the big deal. It is a big deal. And the reason why is we're in a modern world and nations need semiconductors or they're going to get left behind in technology speaking. And countries that get left behind technology speaking are going to be third world countries, and they're going to be under the control of the countries that are ahead technologically speaking. And so this is a big deal. And Taiwan produces the best semiconductors in the world. And without Taiwanese semiconductors, these countries can't function militarily. Like they can't. What are they going to fight with? Weapons from 100-year-old weapons? When the other countries have weapons that are smart guided missiles and things like that have semiconductor technology in them. So this is a big deal. Now, what's happening right now? I know this letter came from way back months ago, back in February 1st, but what's happening now with all of this is China summons the Japanese ambassador and denounces the G7 smears. They call them smears. What this represents, what's going on right now at the G7, it says China summoned Japanese ambassador Hideto Terumi on Sunday to protest the communique issued by Japan and other G7 countries, which, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, smears and attacks Beijing. The foreign minister also denounced the United Kingdom in particular. And if we move on further down in this article, it says that they're calling it the anti-China workshop of the G7. So it's a confrontation between these camps. What does this represent? What's going on with this? Is a cooling of relations. Very powerful cooling of relations of the whole world. Relations between Russia and the West have more than cooled. They're downright ice. And maybe that's why they call this a Cold War. You know? It's because everything ices over. Nobody wants to talk to anybody else on it. You remember how friendly they were a few years ago when they were having their meetings and stuff? Everybody's shaking hands. They weren't hugging and kissing, but they were practically, they're shaking hands and very friendly, very friendly. And now it's cold. It's cold, really cold. And see, this is what's going on. And this is why this general, they know They know. They know which way things are going. It's heading toward Russia's not. This is not. But the war in Ukraine's not over by a long shot either. They've been fighting over back and forth over Bakhmut for months. Bakhmut's finally starting to fall, I think. And this is not over by a long shot. It's turning like it's becoming like attrition. It's becoming back and forth, but it's not over by a long shot. So it's a war, and this is a war in Ukraine that is very potentially dangerous for escalation into some sort of. It just takes one little mistake, one little plane flying the wrong way across Poland or something. And then all of a sudden, a monster of an escalation escalates out of control. But then that's not all. We got what's going on over in Taiwan, which is slowly but surely creeping in this direction toward war. So it's a bad situation on the earth. Now, what else is going on? We're going to get in here and take a look. Now, our housing market over here in the United States is a monster of a market, and it's been red hot just a few months ago. But right now, 30-year mortgage rates are approaching 7%. And it's very sensitive, this market, to interest rates. Because just a small percentage in higher interest rates means on the long term on that mortgage, it means how much you're going to pay on the longer end, and perhaps that's why it was so hot, because now we see a cooling of the housing market coming, and might be a very large cooling, and suddenly, because of other factors that's happening within the economy. Like now, you guys all know about the banking crisis that's ongoing right now, and we know this has been the fastest tightening cycle probably in history. I mean, they've been jacking rates up. And right now, we've got a tightening of the monetary supply. Unheard of. You got to go back to 1949, the last time the monetary supply got this tight. Actually, it wasn't this tight in 1940. You got to go back earlier than that. That's before any of us were alive. You cannot tighten into a Ponzi scheme that's ongoing. You got to keep the liquidity coming. All bank credit is seized right now. It's almost like there's a kink in the hose where the water's not coming through. Well, that can't last very long, guys. This is a situation that can't last very long because liquidity's drying up too fast. The banks aren't lending money, and this is how they create money and new money into the system. Because there's more outstanding debt than there is credit. Okay, so you got this monster pile of debt on this side over here. And you got this continuing issuance of credit over here. If the two don't balance, if the debt gets out of control, which it already is, and then they're not creating enough credit to pay off that debt, the whole thing cracks up. And we're in that process right now, the whole thing cracking up. So how does it crack up? Well, it looks like a recession. Then the recession turns into a depression. And then what happens is the depression starts this giant black sucking sound, this giant black hole of sucking up all of the money, what we call money. And they have to stop that. Once that starts, once that engine starts, once that black hole starts to suck up everything, and so this company goes under over here. And they have a bunch of employees, say 500 employees, and they have to lay them all off, right? And then they can't buy things at a local grocery store that they used to buy things at because they were working. Now they're not working anymore. They haven't got the money to spend, so that grocery store goes under, and they lay off 20 more employees. They, in turn, can't feed their families, so they have to cut back and everything. And so then the shopping mall down the road's not getting any business, so then they go under, and they fire 500 more employees, and this thing spirals out of control like a black hole that's sucking up everything. So then what do they have to do is they have to go back to these easy monetary policies to fix all that once it gets too big and out of control. But the problem with that is, and that spirals out of control. It's like a flip of a switch. It's like deflation's over here and inflation's over here. And as long as they keep the money pumping out, they keep us on the inflation side. But as soon as they stop pumping the money out, we start to go over toward the deflation, and it's faster and faster and faster. And so then they have to prop that up at a certain point. They just can't let that finish its process, because if they let that deflationary process, when we're this leveraged within the system, it would all deleverage right down to the ground, and there's nothing really there to support any of it. It's a giant house of cards. But they can't let that house of cards completely collapse. So at some point, they have to step in. And when they do that, the longer they let it go, the deeper the hole gets. So at some point, they got to try to fill that hole, and they got to try to stop this thing. It's kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill and get bigger and bigger and bigger. You got to stop it, because ultimately it would just get so big it'll flatten everything. So they got to stop it at some point. And they already set this process in motion right now by raising these interest rates and by doing quantitative tightening. They've already set the process in motion. They got the ball going down the hill, but it's still small. It's not really noticeable yet that much. Only people who are nowhere to look, and not, like us on this channel and stuff, we know where to look. We know what's going on. We know the ball's already in motion right now, but it's really going to start to snowball now. More banks, and not just banks, but real estate's going to start to drop off, and all of it. Businesses are going to start laying off people, and it's just going to start growing from here. And all we're looking for on this channel, you guys, me, all of us, what we're looking for is the point where they cannot accept it going down any longer, where it's getting too big for them and they get scared, and then they change their monetary policy. Because that's the key. When they do that, the dollar's dead. The only thing that's supporting the dollar right now is their tight monetary policies, and they cannot continue with this for a whole lot longer. It's in the easy way for me to describe. I watched one of these videos on today, on the TikTok thing, and there's this guy hanging off of a bar, and they were going to pay him like $100 or something if he could last like 2 minutes or something hanging, like The thing about that is, like the guy, you can look over right now, and he's sitting there and he's hanging. He's got a hold of the bar above his head and he's hanging. You know what's going to happen, whether it's 2 minutes from now, or it's 5 minutes from now, or it's 10 minutes from now. He's going to drop. His arms are going to get tired. He's going to drop. That's going to happen. Well, that's the way with this, except it takes a bit longer. We're watching for it. We know that this system is going to change their monetary policy at a certain point, because the deflation they're creating is going to start to get too big for them to manage. It's going to scare the living bejesus out of them. And they're going to really turn in policy at that point. So we know that's going to happen. This is a given. This turn or change. But how far are they going to let it go? Are they going to wait until we're all out of a job and then try to fix it and put us all on UBI? Here, $2,000 a month for you, $2,000 a month for you, $2,000 a month for you. Is that what they're going to do? Wait until we're all not working? Or what? What are they going to do? How long are they going to let this fall before they finally reach down and catch it? Because they say, oh no, it's going to... See, I know, right up front, I already know that this thing would collapse down until it blows the derivatives market, which is a quadrillion-dollar market. And that'll freeze everything. Nothing will work. You think this banking crisis was bad? Well, there's bigger markets out there. They can blow the bond market to pieces, for one. And that's way bigger than the stock market. They can blow the corporate bond market. They can blow this is one of the bombs right here, this real estate. They can blow this all to pieces. They cannot let it go too far because it'll tear the whole system to pieces and nothing will function. This has the potential to actually create a Mad Max environment. This has the potential to create a Mad Max world. This, if they let it completely die, if they didn't do nothing, if they just stood back and said, okay, we're just going to let this thing collapse to the ground and we ain't going to do a damn thing about it. It would keep collapsing and collapsing and collapsing until the whole thing freezes and no money would move through the system and everything would come to a stop and the power would go out, and that's it. All they wrote. Because everything runs off of the financial system. Everything runs on money. Your internet that you're listening to me on right now has to have money to make it function. There's people, service people that go out and they get paid to keep it running. So when your internet goes down, you call somebody, hey, my internet's down. Next thing they say, okay, we're going to send a technician out. That technician has a paycheck. He ain't going to come out there and work on your internet without that paycheck. And if his company goes down, then your internet's going to go down. Then if all the internet companies go down, if all the power companies go down, all of it, the whole thing is all runs on money. And the financial system has to keep the gears running on this giant machine. This giant machine is what provides us with food too. The grocery stores out there, the trucks come to the grocery store, all runs on money. So the whole system, if they let this deflation run to its final conclusion, every company on earth would go bankrupt because they wouldn't have the money. The money would all evaporate. Deflation would take it all away, all the money. What we call money, because it's all credit. Right now, the plumbing is stopped. They're not producing additional credit. The banks are not making loans. This is how money's created. Not the Fed. The Fed, what they make is they make a little bit of money, but they leave it in the system in a liquidity trap. And they just support the banking system with it. They give it to the banks to hold. And it never makes its way into the general economy. This is quantitative easing. That's why it's not really all that inflationary. You know, what was inflationary is when the COVID crisis was on, they were printing these stimmy checks. That's a different kind of stimulus. It's not like quantitative easing. That stimmy check goes directly to the people where they spend it at the stores, and that's what triggered this inflationary bout that we had. It was all that stimmy checks that they were sending out and all the paying people who were staying home and stuff, you know, what was going on. Trillions that they were just spending willy-nilly, and they created this big boom, created inflation. Now they've just going completely in the opposite direction, and they've pulled the gears out of all that, and now they've kinked the hose. No more water, no more soup for you, no more money into the system. Well, there's a trickle-down effect, and that kink in the hose is going to affect us in the next few months, and it's already been done. Now, at a certain point, they're going to have to undo it because everybody's going to start, a lot of big companies and corporations are going to start going bankrupt, and that's going to extend further out. It's what they call contagion effect. So we haven't had it all happen right now, and everybody thinks things are good? No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to tell you guys that this is going to start to play out later this year in a big way. And you're going to see what I'm talking about right now. You're going to see it play out. And it's going to be kind of exciting because it's going to be some sort of a crisis. And how it manifests within the system could be in very unexpected ways that you guys don't know of yet. And you're going to find out pretty soon. So anyway, I've had my little rant. Let's take a look at the markets now. Taking a look at silver, it's down 20 cents at 23.63. Take a look at gold today. 1972, it's down $4.80 on the day so far. Cryptocurrency today, we're looking at a Bitcoin price of 26,878. And an Ethereum price of 1814 today. Now the Dow Jones today, She's down 70 points at 33,356 today so far. Let's take a look at oil price. 71.52. It's down 3 cents. Now, bonds and rates today. We're seeing these treasuries been hopping lately. They've been jumping up, the yields. Looking at a 10-year at 3.72. It's up 3.2 basis points. And the U.S. 30-year is up 2.1 basis points at 3.96. So the long end's starting to go up a little bit now. But boy, gosh, look at that 1 month. 5.6. That's quite a high yield, isn't it? So, I mean, look. They can get like over 5%. You know? Money in the bank, are you getting that kind of interest rate? People are going to, and the banks are staggering on their feet. And you're not absolutely certain if you've got more than $250,000 in the bank, you're not absolutely certain that they're going to cover that. And you could get over 5%, like whatever. I mean, people are just going to be like, there's a lot of money moving around the system right now. And the people are worried, you know. Anyway, let's take a look now at the U.S. dollar index. What we're seeing is 103.35, and the dollar's going up right now. Now, this doesn't surprise me. The dollar's going to go from hero to zero ultimately. Because this deflationary monster they're trying to let out of the box. They've got the box cracked open right now. They can see his eyes in there, and he's growling. He's an inflationary monster. And he's gonna spring out of this box at a certain point. And then they're gonna be like, put him back in, put him back in, put him back in, get him back in the box. Oh boy, oh boy. You know? Once that inflationary monster gets out. Because it's fast. It can jump around the room like a monkey on steroids. Ding, bing, 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 bouncing off the walls. Just like a wildcat. That's what it's so fast. Now, see, inflation's not that fast. You can see inflation coming. But the deflation, it happens fast because first one company goes under, and then another bank goes under, and then the next thing this goes under, that goes under, something else goes under, and the next thing you know, liquidity's drying up from the system because they're all trying to pay off their debts and stuff, and it just disappears. And then they're marking things to market, and then there's margin calls, and boom, boom, boom. It all happens like that. If it happens so fast, the computers on the internet start transmitting these signals back and forth. Well, he just went under. Oh, no, he's under too. And oh, he's under too. And then panic begins. And everybody starts, sell, 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 sell. That's fast. That's the deflationary monster they're going to let out of this box. And then they got to put it back in the box because it is so ultimately powerful, ultimately. And this is what I'm trying to let you guys know, that they're never going to let it complete its mission, the deflation, because it would just wipe us completely out as a species, even if they just let it go, because we're on a debt-based system here. Everything's built up with leverage and debt, and if that all expunges from the system and the system gets rid of all of that, which is what the system wants to do, it wants to mark everything to the fair market value. It just all comes tumbling down to the ground. And so they can't let it complete that cycle. Because they can't let it complete that cycle, then it's going to be inflation. That's where it's going to be ultimately, is inflation. Because they'll have to support the system. And then the longer they let it go, the more deflation we have, the more stimulus they're going to have to do on the other side to bring it back up to normal again. And they will. And then that's going to come right down hard on the dollar. And we've been seeing this process. It's been going along slow since 1914. We've been seeing it happen. We've already lost like 98% of our dollar. You think that it's going to go the other way and we're going to gain on that? Really? The process that's been going on for over 100 years and it's moving in one direction. Suddenly the dollar's going to become worth more again. You can buy more with it? Really? They can print as many as they want, like leaves on the trees, and you think it's going to be worth something more? Get your silver. I mean, even if silver and gold go down a little bit temporarily, and they might, because they're creating this deflation, and deflation people do have to come up with the money. They're called to come up with the money. And when they come up with the money, they might have to sell things to try to get that liquidity. And they could even sell gold and silver and stuff to try to gain liquidity, to pay off things that they owe, because the money is draining out of the system right now, to try to hold things together. For instance, you could have a guy out there, who owns a business, and perhaps he's been a little bit of a silver stacker or a gold stacker, and suddenly things aren't going so good. His business is not, but he wants to keep the family business. He's really like in a bind. He's got to pay off, got electric bills, and he's got bills to pay off his employees, and he's got to pay this and pay that and he starts to run out of liquidity. It might be awful tempting for him to sell some of his gold in order to keep his business running. But ultimately, where's this going in the end? Well, when it gets big enough, they'll fix it, and when they fix it, goodbye dollar. So that's a breaking point for this. Anyway, guys, I've talked a long time. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.